used to be sharp, curious, brilliant. You saw things others didn't. But now, somehow, you feel hollow, foggy, like a stranger to yourself. What happened? Carl Jung believed this isn't your fault. It's what the world does to the gifted. It praises your light, then slowly rewires you to dim it. And one day, you wake up, disconnected from the very person you were born to become. But that brilliance, it's not gone. It's buried. In this video, we're going to uncover 6 hidden chapters, 6 turning points that explain why your brilliance faded, and how to reclaim it. Each one is a map back to you. And once you see them, you won't just remember who you were. You'll understand who you were always meant to be. Let's begin. You were the observant one, the quiet child who knew too much, too soon. You walked into rooms and instantly felt what no one else dared say aloud. The tension behind the smiles, the heaviness in the silence, the truth lurking behind the words, "I'm fine." You weren't just intelligent, you were perceptive, emotionally attuned. And because of that, you became what others needed, before they ever had to ask. Carl Jung believed that the brilliant child doesn't simply grow from intellect, but from adaptation. They sense the emotional climate of their home and shape themselves to survive it. You learned to please. You learned to perform. You learned that love came easier when you were useful, agreeable, and impressive. But something else began to happen. A quiet sacrifice. Your own needs began to shrink. Your identity became blurred with the expectations you wore, like armor. The child who could sense everything slowly lost touch with what they actually felt. And now? Now you find yourself grown, but still unsure of where you begin and others end. You don't know what you want. You don't know who you are. Not because you failed, but because you were brilliant at becoming what everyone else wanted. This is the wound that genius hides behind. You were praised for being gifted, but no one noticed that your gifts were built from survival. Jung warned us, when we live only through the roles others assign us, we bury the authentic self in the shadow. We become strangers to ourselves. If you feel lost now, it's not because you've wandered off course. It's because you were never allowed to chart your own path. You were too busy walking someone else's. And the tragedy? The world rewarded you for it. The grades, the compliments, the achievements. But behind the applause was a deep and growing emptiness, because none of it felt like yours. You didn't ask yourself, "Is this what I want?" You only asked, "Will this be enough to finally feel safe, seen, loved?" That's the wound the brilliant child carries. A success that feels hollow. A life that looks full, but feels like it belongs to someone else. And maybe now, you're just starting to feel it. That ache, that quiet whisper in the back of your soul. It doesn't want more trophies. It wants truth. So, how do you begin to reclaim it? Not by forcing some grand transformation, not by burning it all down, but by listening to the parts of you that were silenced for being too sensitive, to the instincts you buried beneath politeness, to the voice that asked, long ago, What about me? The journey back to yourself begins the moment you stop performing, the moment you stop proving, the moment you realize you don't need to earn your place anymore. You already belong, but not as a version of someone else's dream, as you. And it starts here, not with becoming someone new, but remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. At some point, you stopped playing and started auditioning. Every choice became a calculation. Every interaction, a performance. You smiled when you were exhausted. You agreed when you wanted to scream. You became charming, agreeable, helpful, because those masks kept you safe. But what no one tells the brilliant child is this: if you wear the mask long enough, you forget it's a mask. Carl Jung called this the persona, the socially acceptable version of you, designed to keep you connected and protected. But when the persona takes over, when it becomes your entire identity, you begin to starve. The soul doesn't survive on applause. It needs authenticity. And this is where many get stuck. You look in the mirror and see the polished version, the one who achieved, who succeeded, who made everyone proud. But behind the eyes is numbness, because even though your life looks good, you can't feel you in it. You've made everyone else comfortable, but at the cost of your own aliveness. So what do? First, you notice, not with shame, not with judgment, but with compassion. You ask yourself, what parts of me have I locked away because they didn't fit the image? Maybe it was your anger, your messiness, your vulnerability, your desire to not be perfect. These are not flaws. They are fragments of your forgotten wholeness. Jung believed the path to individuation, becoming a complete self, requires integrating the shadow. And the shadow isn't just our darkness. It's every part of us we were told wasn't acceptable. So yes, your exhaustion has wisdom. Your confusion has a voice. Your frustration isn't a failure. It's a signal that you're ready to stop pretending, that you're tired of playing a role that earns love instead of just receiving it. And this realization can be terrifying, because letting go of the mask feels like losing everything: your identity, your approval, your safety. But what you're actually letting go of is the illusion that love has to be earned by disappearing. You were never meant to shrink for others. You were meant to expand into yourself, to speak your truth, even if your voice shakes, to say no without guilt, to stop apologizing for existing differently. Because true connection, real, deep, soul-level connection, only happens when the mask comes off. That's where freedom begins, not in rebellion, but in remembrance, remembering that you were never broken. You were bending to survive. But now it's time to return, to reclaim your softness, your truth, your strange, wild, imperfect brilliance. Not to become someone new, but to stop being what you're not. And that journey, it continues with the next truth, one that no one ever warned the brilliant child about, but has silently shaped every decision you've made since. And once you hear it, you won't be able to unsee it. There's a moment, quiet and often forgotten, when the brilliant child learns they can't rely on anyone. Maybe someone let you down. Maybe they ignored the pain in your eyes, or maybe they simply didn't ask. And so you built a fortress, brick by brick, silence by silence, smile by practiced smile. You told yourself, I'm fine, even when you weren't, because being strong became the only way to stay untouched, unbothered, unbreakable. But what started as protection became prison. Carl Jung once said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power." And hyperindependence is the will to power in disguise. It's not strength. It's fear wearing confidence like armor. You didn't become self-sufficient because it felt good. You became that way because asking for help once felt like punishment, because need was met with shame, because vulnerability became too expensive. So you learned to survive by being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never breaks, never needs, never asks. But inside, the brilliant child quietly weeps, because no one ever offers support to the one who seems to need nothing. And that's the heartbreak. The more you carry on your own, the more invisible your pain becomes. You've made it easy for others to forget you're human too. So how do you come back from this? You start by recognizing that independence is only real when it's a choice, not a trauma response. You are allowed to rest, to soften, to admit, I don't have it all together. Because healing doesn't come from proving how much you can endure. It comes from letting someone see what you've been carrying, without fear of rejection. Jung spoke of individuation not as isolation, but integration, a return to wholeness that includes both your strength and your softness. You don't have to be either fragile or invincible. You can be held without being helpless. You can ask without being weak. And the truth, the more you open that door, the more you'll realize that true strength isn't doing it all alone. It's knowing when to stop pretending you have to. You were the brilliant child, but now you must become the honest adult. The one who says, I'm tired of proving. I just want to be. And in that honesty, your healing begins. But there's something else, a truth buried even deeper, beneath the independence, beneath the image. It's what happens when you finally slow down and face the one person you've been avoiding for years, yourself. You learned to shine, to overachieve, to do everything right. Because somewhere along the way, you were taught that doing enough would finally make you feel like enough. But it never did. No matter how many awards, no matter how many compliments, no matter how many nights you stayed up proving you could. The applause fades, the praise quiets, and you're left alone. Alone with the question, why do I still feel empty? Carl Jung warned us that if we ignore our inner world long enough, we become estranged from the self. We confuse success with wholeness, validation with love, accomplishment with identity. But the soul knows better. The soul knows when it's being used as currency for approval. The soul knows when you're working yourself into numbness just to outrun a feeling. Because underneath all the doing is the fear that if you stop, you'll disappear. You see, when the brilliant child grows up, they often become high-functioning adults who feel hollow on the inside. You keep moving, keep performing, keep chasing goals that were never yours to begin with. But none of it fills the silence at 2 a.m. None of it touches the ache behind your smile. None of it heals the part of you that never got to just be. So how do you break free? First, you stop performing your life like it's a stage. You begin asking, who am I when no one's watching? Who am I if I'm not achieving? It's not easy, because performance feels safer than presence. But presence is where your true self waits, not polished, not perfect, but real. Jung said that healing begins not when we add more, but when we remove what is not us. So strip it back. Peel away the accomplishments, the trophies, the image, and sit with what's left. You may feel exposed, raw, uncertain, but you'll also feel. And that feeling is the beginning of truth. You don't have to earn your existence. You don't have to dress your wounds in gold stars. You don't have to hide your loneliness behind your productivity. You're not broken because you're tired. You're tired because you've been pretending for so long. And now you're ready to feel real again. Not perfect, not praised, just real. Because the life you're trying to build through performance is already waiting for you in presence. The next chapter, it takes us into the heart of that presence, into the moment when you finally stop asking, what do they want me to be? And start asking, what does my soul remember about me that I've forgotten? And once you hear that answer, nothing will feel the same again. There's a moment in everyone's life, often unnoticed, when the brilliant child disappears, not in body, but in presence, in voice, in aliveness. They still function, still smile, still say, I'm fine. But inside, they've gone quiet, because somewhere along the way, that child learned, this world doesn't want all of me, just the parts that perform. And so they buried the rest, the messy parts, the loud parts, the vulnerable, too much, too sensitive, too raw parts, all of it locked away, not gone, just hidden, waiting. Carl Jung called this the shadow, not evil, not broken, but simply exiled. Your inner child didn't die. They adapted. They split themselves in two, giving the world what it wanted and hiding the rest in silence. But the shadow doesn't stay buried forever. It whispers in your overreactions. It screams through your addictions. It shows up in your sabotaged relationships, your fear of intimacy, your need to control. It's not trying to ruin you. It's trying to return. Because what you rejected back then, your joy, your softness, your rage, your longing, is exactly what you need to feel whole now. And the paradox? The more you suppress that forgotten self, the more fragmented you become. You feel it when you laugh at the wrong time, when you flinch at kindness, when you chase love that hurts, or avoid love that heals. You've become a stranger to yourself, a brilliant mask built on top of a silenced voice. So how do you bring them back? You stop calling them childish. You stop calling them dramatic. You stop labeling your raw feelings as weakness. Instead, you sit with them. You listen. You grieve. You let the tears come without apology. You let the anger speak without fear. You let the innocence resurface, not to be judged, but to be welcomed home. Jung believed that the path to wholeness is not in escaping the past, but integrating it. So when that inner child knocks, through your loneliness, your restlessness, your shame, don't shut the door. Open it. Hold them. Tell them, you don't have to perform anymore. Because wholeness isn't becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before the world told you to hide. You were the brilliant child, not because you were perfect, but because you were whole. Let that wholeness return. And now, once you've heard that voice again, once the child steps back into the light, there's only one step left. Learning how to live as your true self in a world that still wants the performance. It happens slowly at first. You begin saying no. You start resting without guilt. You speak without adjusting your tone to make everyone comfortable. And you notice something strange. Peace. A quiet, unfamiliar peace. Not the kind that comes from achieving, but the kind that comes from belonging to yourself. Carl Jung called this individuation. The process of becoming who you truly are, not who you were trained to be. It's not rebellion. It's return. You stop asking, what do they want from me? And start asking, what does my soul need? You stop chasing clarity from others and begin trusting the silence inside you. Because that silence, it's not emptiness, it's memory. It remembers your laughter before you censored it, your dreams before you shrunk them, your truth before it became convenient. You've been living outside yourself for so long, chasing, pleasing, proving, that now, standing in your own presence feels like walking into a sacred temple you forgot was yours. And here's what happens next. People may leave. Roles may crumble. The life you built on performance may shake. But something else rises. Something rooted. Something real. You start doing things not for recognition, but for resonance. You stop hustling for worth and start moving from wholeness. You feel lighter, clearer, less reactive. You speak slower, but your words land deeper. Because when you finally live in alignment, not with expectation, but with essence, everything changes. You lose the false version of you, but you gain yourself. And that self, it's not just healed, it's holy. You're not here to be impressive. You're here to be true. You're not here to stay polished. You're here to be free. So if you've been feeling lost, like you've drifted far from the brilliant child you once were, just know they're still there, not waiting for applause, just waiting to be seen. And now you see them. The journey isn't about going back. It's about bringing them forward, into your voice, into your choices, into your presence. And for the first time in a long time, you don't have to perform. You just have to be. Because who you are, beneath the image, beneath the role, was never broken, just buried. And now, finally, you remember. You were never too much. You were just surrounded by people who didn't know how to hold your light. But you do. Hold it, live it, be it. This is the return of the brilliant child, not as a memory, but as the self. And now, your real life begins. And if something in you felt seen today, if you recognized even a small part of your lost self, don't let that go unnoticed. This isn't just a video. It's a mirror, one you might want to return to again. If it resonated, share it with someone else who needs the reminder. And if you're on this journey too, of remembering, of returning, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And when you're ready, subscribe. There's more waiting for you here.